Shadow Paladin enters his new chapter with the rise of Gust Blaster Dragon.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to part 3 of our set review of the Vilest Deletor that just recently hit the Japanese format, and that's about to hit us in 2 months. And we already talked about Murakumo and Pale Moon, and today we're gonna focus about Shadow Paladin. Shadow Paladin has been a very strong and oppressive deck since it debuted in Standard with the set of AL4 Strongest Team, and because of that fact, we see that the new support wave isn't that sincerely an upgrade, but more of a spreading of utility options to the package that Shadow Paladin already has within the first support wave. So you won't be seeing a lot of new cards that outright are a more powerful version of older cards, but more on the less that we can make more consistent builds or more diverse gameplay options in the way that we build our decks. So without further ado, let's jump right into these cards as there are some interesting things to talk about, and Shadow Paladin got some awesome new high value reprint cards. So let's go over these reprints first, so we have those out of the way. First off, we have an SP version of the Draw Trigger PG. I give this one 5 stars as, of course, the Draw PG triggers are very awesome, very good, but it's always nice to see that we have another way to getting these cards, as seen as it's always great to have more ways to get these Draw PGs. Then next up, we of course got an SP version of Blaster Dark, and as seen as Blaster Blade already got this treatment, then we of course can see that Blaster Dark also needs to have this treatment. Although Blaster Dark might be coming out of favor with the new support wave, it's still a great card to run, but it won't be that main key boss monster of a card that is for Blaster Blade, as since everything revolves around Blaster Blade. Blaster Dark is just a great card that works on its own without actually a lot of cards needing it. So in that reason, I give this reprint a 4-star card, as we already got a lot of other ways to get it, and it's just basically for the guys that want to have more pimp options in their deck. We also see the return of the triggers in this set, although I don't think it was really that needed, since we already got a trial deck and the set was way enough options to get these things. And unlike Oracle Think Tank, they did not get a new reprint design artwork. So in that sense, I give all these triggers just 1 star, as it doesn't really impact at all. It's just extra filler cards for basically the people that want to build Shadow Paladin right out of the box from this set. Same goes for the starter, Full Bow. Also give only 2 stars for this card, as it's just another way to get the starter. We already have it from the trial deck, so it's not really that needed to reprint it not as fast as it already is. But it's basically for the people that want to play Shadow Paladin right up from the box from this set. Alright, we're gonna start with the actual individual cards and new cards for Shadow Paladin. And the first one we're gonna talk about is Major Refusal Brigus, and his skills continues a rearguard circle. If you have more rearguards than your opponent cannot intercept. Right out of the gate, this is just a terrible card. It's a 1-star in my opinion, as the reason why this card works is just a little bit awkward, and it doesn't really work actually in how it's intended, as when you have more rearguards than your opponent, they cannot intercept. Probably the moment that you have more rearguards than your opponent, they have no interceptors. So what's the whole deal with this thing? And it doesn't really do anything for Shadow Paladin, so that's hence the 1 star. Alright, moving on, we got another card, and that's Knight of Fighting Spirits, Doradona, and its skill is auto on Vanguard to rearguard circle. When it attacks a Vanguard, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, one of units get power plus 3k until the end of turn. Again, not a great card. It's actually pretty damn terrible, and that's why I only give it 1 star, as it's only a 10k that gives 3k away to one of your units. It can give it 1 to himself, but it basically then becomes a 13k attacker. And we got a lot of other cards that can become a 15k attacker and do a lot more and get more free power. So this 3k doesn't mean anything, and we got way better options for that. So that's why only 1 star. Alright, next up, we've got this interesting interaction between 2 cards. And the grade 1 of this interaction is Manibao. One of his skill is continuous rearguard circle. If your unit was retired during this turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. So whenever you use your specific rearguard skills or your Vanguard skills to retire something, this in turn becomes a 13k attacker. Actually pretty damn neat, as it hits the perfect magic numbers. It's 13, 23, 33, depending on how many force markers. So that makes it actually pretty damn good grade 1. Then its other skills, auto rearguard circle, when it boosts a Soul Bow, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. So this card allows you to filter through your deck if you boost it with a specific unit. And overall, I think this card is a 3-star worth, as this first skill makes it solid enough. The other skill is depending on the unit that it's run with, and that's going to look out after this how good that unit is, makes this card even better or not. But on its own, the first skill is enough to say it's a pretty decent card to run or not in certain builds. Then the card that it works with, Soulbow, his skill is Auto Rearguard Circle. When it's played from hand, if you have a Vanguard with Blasters in its card name, cost, counter +1, search your deck for up to 1 mini battle, call to Rearguard Circle, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets plus 5k until the end of turn. So we got something that looks a little bit like Akane and Pongal for Shadow Paladin. And unlike Royal Paladin, this one isn't in 10k, it's in 9k. And that's a little bit logical, as since Shadow Paladin isn't about superior calling from deck, so to balance that out with Royal Paladin, they make this card a little bit weaker as a base power, so you have less incentive to run this card. But overall, I think it's a fine card, and that's why I give it 3 stars, as it, for 1 counterblast, it filters your deck. It's basically a draw 1 that all the other cards does, like Maka or Blaster Javelin. So in that sense, it's fine, but actually a little bit better as you search at a specific card. And then blindly draw is always a little bit worse than a specific draw card that is either superior called or whatever fetched to hand. Also, the plus 5k makes it a little bit stronger as it becomes a 14k, and then if you have that thing behind it, it becomes 22, and it becomes potentially 27 if you retired something. So you have a 27k column for the cost of a counterblast, and you search out your deck. And 27 is damn high without a force marker. The only problem is that you need to have a Blaster Vanguard, and seeing as it's already grade 2 that it doesn't have Blaster in its own name, might become a little bit issue in some scenarios, but it's fine, and that's why I give it 3 stars. Alright, next up we've got Mage of Ensnarement Connor, and his skills Auto and Guardian Circle. When placed, cost, Soul Blast 1, and move 1 of your rearguards to the Guardian Circle. Abilities of the unit when placed on Guardian Circles do not activate. Alright, in my sense, this isn't a great card, and I give it 1 star as it doesn't do anything. It's basically only useful when you guard with it, so it's a 10k Guardian, and then you need a Soul Blast, and you're already using a lot of Soul for other skills, and then you can move another rearguard to the Guardian Circle. And basically, and what you're actually going to use it for is to get grade 1s from the back row to the Guardian Circle, as why the hell would you put it with grade 2s that already can intercept? So it gets another 10k for a Soul Blast, but you also mind losing 1 rearguard. It's not that great, and you're probably not going to run it, as your grade 1s are very important with the current builds. The next up, we've got Guru Bao, and his skill is Auto Rearguard Circle. When it detects a Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 2k until the end of the battle for each of your grade of your Vanguard, plus 6k if your Vanguard is grade 3. This card is pretty good. It is a very aggressive card, and it enables aggressive plays, as when you place it on the Rearguard Circle, when you're grade 1, it's a 10k beater. When you're grade 2, it's a 12k beater. And when you're grade 3, it's a 14k beater. So basically every turn it hits everything against your opponent. So it doesn't become an 8k that does nothing when you ride to grade 2 when you call it to the Rearguard Circle as an aggressive play. It still can be used as an attacker, and it makes it a very good for aggressive early game plays. But besides that, it doesn't really do anything, as it just becomes a generic 8k booster, as its skill only works when it is attacking. So in that sense, I give it 3 stars, as it's good for early aggression, and early aggression is always great to have in a Forest Clan, and with Shadow Paladin afterwards you can just retire it for the cost of Phantom Blaster Dragon or Ghost Blaster Dragon, so it has its use then in that sense. The next up, we've got Witch of Fertility Nenes, and Nenes is a very controversial card in the sense that, 1, it's a 7k grade 2, and second, it's because of her skill, and her skill is act on the Rearguard Circle once per turn, cost, rest 3 of your rearguards, and you and your opponent may countercharge 1, soul charge 1. Both fighters perform their choice. As I stated in the previous video when I talked about the support card for Gust Blaster and whatnot, it's not that you can countercharge or soul charge 1, or you can do 1 and then decide not the other. You need to perform them both. If you perform them, you need to perform them both. The other part about this card is that you give your opponent resources, and in most scenarios is pretty damn bad. You can play around it that either they have no benefit from them, but in some sense they probably always will have a beneficial effect from either getting a counterblast or getting from the soul charge. And that's why it's a little bit too hassle to work around it, and you already have other ways to get counter charge or soul charge. It's fine that it's in 1 card, and the rest 3 isn't really that great, that terrible, as you can then sacrifice those 3 pieces for Phantom Blaster Dragon. But the fact that it's a 7k gear too, and it gives your opponent resources, makes it really bad. And you need to jump through some really awkward hoops to make it work. So that's why I give it only 1 star. Alright, next up we've got an interesting grade 3 support card, and that's Shadow Dragon. And his skill is Auto on Vanguard the Record Circle. When placed, cost, counter +1, look at the 2 cards from the top of your deck, call up the 2 cards from among them to the Record Circle as the rest, and put the rest in a drop zone. So what this is, it's basically a card that allows you to go +2 and then sacrifice that maybe with some skills for Phantom Blessed Dragon, for example, and then get some value out of them. Also, some unplaced effects will go off, and the fact that you +2 out of nowhere is pretty damn powerful in a sense that you will keep your hand at a healthy hand size. It's a little bit similar like Kef Bar that can Soul Blast 1 and then call the top card from the deck, but this one costs Counter Blast instead of Soul Blast, but you get 2 units. So in some case it can be better, or it can be worse as you might not have the Counter Blast to spare. But in the way that it works, I will give it 3 stars, as getting even more rare cards to the field for similar cost is pretty damn powerful in my mind. Then next up, we've got another grade 1 support card, and that is Apocalypse Bat. And one of his skills is Auto on Vanguard Circle. When placed, you may call a card from your soul to the Vanguard Circle. So this card basically turns your starter into a Forerunner. And since you already have the +1 from your right skill, then your starter generates a +2 in that sense. And then you can sack it with any other skill. And his other skills, Auto Rearguard Circle, when placed, you may call Apocalypse Bat from your soul to the Rearguard Circle. So when you write this thing, you get 1 Rearguard to the field. Then later in the game, when you call Rearguard, you can call this thing from the soul back onto the field, and you +1 once again. And you have other cards that can potentially put this thing from the drop zone into the soul, and when you call another Rearguard Apocalypse Bat, then you can call it out once again. So you have this free way of getting more Rearguards to be able to sack them with Phantom Blessed Dragon or Cosmic Blessed Dragon or any other kind of specific skill. But the way that you use it is very limited, and you need to do a lot for the skill card. So because of those awkward hoops you might need to jump through, I give this one 3 stars, as its skill and the potential of getting these free units is very damn powerful, as it doesn't cost any counter blast or soul blast, but you need to do some awkward things, and you need to be lucky that you can write this thing as grade 1. Next up, we got another grade 3 support card, and that is Dark Metal Dragon, and his skills act on Rearguard Circle once per turn, cost counter +1, and retire one of your Rearguards. Search your deck up to 1 power 9k card, call to Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. Your opponent choose one of his or her Rearguards and retire it. At the end of the turn, retire the unit called with the ability. So what this does, it basically fetches out your 9Ks, and it can help out with getting either something like Blessed Rapier or Darkbond Trumpeter. You can also get the 9K that fetches out Soulbow, and you got another one that enables you to not guard, that cannot be hit, but that's a pretty damn terrible card. The only problem is that it retires itself at the end, and that means that you either need to sack them immediately with something as Gas Blaster. That can be a potential thing to get value out of it. Also, because this thing retires another Rearguard, if you're sitting at Gas Blaster will get another crit. So there are some things with it, but it's very specific and very one-dimensional with this card. So I'll give this one 2 stars, as it's another Counterblast cost, another Rearguard second skill, and the fact that it only can search out 9Ks, and the ones that we have cannot really chain in much, as seen as Soul Bows cannot chain into many bows, you need to place it from hand. You can use it with Darkbond Trumpeter, but Darkbond Trumpeter costs another Counterblast, so that's gonna be really fast burning through your Counterblasters. And Blessed Rapier as well is another one, but Blessed Rapier does have a hit skill, so maybe that will be a good potential target for it. So we have to wait and see, but I think it's only 2 stars, as it's a little bit too Counterblast heavy for the deck as it currently is. Then next up, we got Blackwing Swordbreaker, and her skills Auto Rearguard Circle. When placed, cost Counterblast 1, draw a card, and if this card was placed from hand, this unit get plus 5k until the end of turn. Alright, this card is phenomenal. It's basically in the main with a gigantic upgrade, as she is 5k body, so she can search up in the main, and she fixes the problem what the mains has. If you draw all your mains on hand, it's basically dead cards in your hand that doesn't amount to much anymore. With this skill untacked on top of an main, you can turn an main from hand suddenly into a valuable card, as it becomes a 10k attacker or booster, and it allows you to draw a card just like something called as a Blaster Rapier. So it's even better than some specific cards we already have. And that's why this card is definitely 5 stars in my book, and will probably be running in a lot of card decks that also feature in the main. Then next up, we've got Darkbone Trumpeter, another high value card that is probably going to be run in some specific decks, and that's because of her following skills. First skills, auto on Vanguard Record Circle. When placed, cost, count +1, search your deck for up to 1 power 5k card, call to Record Circle as rest, and shuffle your deck. Basically what this does is it calls out your Nemain. So you will have Nemain ready for the next turn, and it allows you to get Nemain as early as possible onto the field, as fast as possible, as getting Nemain past your Great Free turn on your board is a little bit too late. This card helps with a little bit more consistency to get your Nemain onto the board as quick as possible. And that is basically the power of this card. The other skill of this card is Auto Vanguard to Record Circle. When your power 5k Record is placed, this unit get power plus 3k until the end of turn. So she turn into a 12k attacker when you use her first skill or when you call something from hand. It does stack. So if you have another Nemain ready and you use Nemain skills, it becomes a 15k attacker and then an 18k, and it goes on when you call more cards, if you call more Nemains or more Swordbreakers. So it's a fine card, and I give it 4 stars as it is basically a more consistent option than an outright power option, as you probably not will get this thing to a very high number as something like a Kev, something like the grade 2 that gets plus 3 to 5k when your opponent has when you have more rear guards than your opponent, but this one will help with more consistency issues. And now we're getting to the big boss monster of the set for Shadow Paladin, the one controversial card of this set, and that's Gust Blaster Dragon. I talked a lot about this card in this video on top, so if you want a more detailed information, I believe in that video I also talked about Swordbreaker or Darkbone Trumpeter, depending on which was released at the same time. So if you want a more in-depth analysis and more talked through explanation about the card, then check out that video. Today I'm going to give you my final verdict about the card and what it potentially can be for standard. Before I'm going to do that, let's go first over his 2 skills. As his first skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. When it attacks, cost, counterblast 1, retire 2 rear guards, draw a card, your opponent chooses one of her rear guards, retires it, and this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. So it's a little bit similar to Phantom Blaster Dragon. The only difference is that instead of 3, you need to sack 2, and you draw 1 card. And instead of your opponent sacks 3, he needs to sack 1, and you only get 10k with no crit instead of the 15k and the crit that you get, but you get a draw from it, and it's during the attack phase. So you can attack with the rearguards you are going to sack. So you have some value out of those attacking units. But the crits come from its second skill, as its second skill is Auto on Vanguard Circle. When your rearguard is retired, if a grade 3 card with Blaster in its card name is in your soul, this unit gets critical +1 and until the end of turn. And this skill stacks. And for every kind of way that it's retired will count. So if it retires through this skill, so if you use this first skill, you retire 2 rearguard, so it gets +2 critical. So in Phantom Blaster Dragon will get plus 15k and a crit. This one will get plus 10k and 2 crits. So it's a little bit dangerous on that side. But if you call cards on top of each other, it will gain a crit. If you use Dark Metal Dragon, that one will retire another rearguard, so that will get a crit. You have the grade 2 that needs to call on top of a certain unit. That will retire a unit, so that's another crit. And you can stack these crits very quickly and very effectively. And the great potential of this card is that you can damage deny your opponent throughout the game. So if they're sitting at 2 or 3 damage, you're just gonna up your crits to the same number as that they will die if they take the attack, and you keep doing this for the entire game until they run out of any kind of resources, or that they just say, alright, I need to bet it on the heal trigger, and they take the attack. And maybe just like Ren, you get a double crit and you do a 6 crit damage. And because of that, I definitely give this card 5 stars, as it's an amazing card that works well with the way that Shadow Paladin is played. Shadow Paladin is a very oppressive deck that likes to force a lot of power against your opponent. And this card really embodies that. And with that, we talked about all the Shadow Paladin cards. They got some interesting cards, but mostly more about utility tech options than outright outpowering cards. Like Apocalypse Bat, for example, or Darkbone Trumpeter. We've seen a very strong new upgraded card that is in the form of Blackwing Swordbreaker, but another card that is very unique in its own sense, that is Gust Blaster Dragon. But we can see that the new Shadow Paladin deck is really about oppressing your opponent and putting them into a corner and in a tough situation where they need to decide either to take something very dangerous or keep sustaining or keep being pressed into a tight corner that's keep getting shorter and tinier and tinier and tinier. So we have to see what Shadow Paladin has in store for us with the upcoming set when we get Vilest Deletor in the English format. But that's basically all about today, and I want to know what you guys think of the Shadow Paladin support. So leave in the comments down below what you guys think about these cards. Are they great? Aren't they really great? How you're gonna build your deck? Are you hyped for a specific card? Or are these new card designs really awesome? Or did you hope for a different kind of card to be released into this set for Shadow Paladin? Let me know all your thoughts and all your discussions in the comments down below, and we kept this thing going. I will see you guys tomorrow with part 4 of this set review, where we're going to go over, let me check, Dark Regulars. And with that, I'm gonna end this video. So as always guys, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and see you guys in the next one.